everybody, I'm CJ, and I hope the people outside doing all of the lawn work, hopefully that stuff isn't too loud because, I got to tell you, I was hoping that they'd be gone by now, but it doesn't look like they're going to be going away anytime soon. So, as I say, hopefully you're not hearing it. But anyway, just look at the screen right now if you're not. This is coming from Eric Larson. He's the CFO of Image Comics. If anybody is in a position to know what's happening at DC and Marvel and is also in a position to comment on it publicly, you would think that Eric Larson would be one of them, for sure. And look at what he's saying. These companies are floundering and failing. The threat from upstairs is that they'll go to all reprints and stop producing new material. They're doing everything they can to stay alive. If you can't afford it, do without. And the background of this is some kind of back and forth that Larson was having with somebody on Twitter about the high seas and going to the high seas to get comics that you can't actually afford to get. And whatever your thoughts about the ethics of the high seas and getting comics through there, that's really not the point. The point is, Ethan Van Sciver has been saying for quite a while now that the day's going to come, not that it might come, but the day will come when DC and Marvel, in whatever capacity, just stop producing new material. All right. That's a very real possibility, Ethan has said. And honestly, the number of friends that Ethan Van Sciver probably still has at DC Comics, yeah, he's probably in a position to comment on that. But when he did, and he's done so repeatedly, but every time that he did, typically people would speak out against him. People would... they would say that he's making stuff up. He doesn't actually have sources or friends at DC anymore, so on and so forth. And there's no reason to believe anything that he's saying. Well, here we go, guys. If this isn't vindication for Ethan Van Sciver, then I guess I don't know what is, because you've now got Eric Larson who's joining in on this and saying, yeah, it's completely real. This is a completely real possibility. Maybe they will stop producing new material, or maybe DC and Marvel will shut down in some capacity or another. It's not science fiction to think that can happen. And when you think about it, Dan DiDio, a couple of years ago, he went on the record saying that reprints tended to sell better than the new stuff. And that was a source of anguish for a lot of people, but it's true. It's probably, it's definitely cheaper to produce reprints than it is new stuff. It's clearly more profitable just for that reason alone to do reprints rather than new stuff. But when the reprints actually outsell the new stuff, you're now looking at like 3 different levels of profitability here. And I wouldn't be surprised if there are some very real conversations happening almost certainly at DC. Marvel, I'm actually not so sure about. Maybe people are talking about it, maybe they're not, but almost certainly at DC. There's got to be people talking about protecting the company, saving the company, really, by switching over to all reprints, no new material, and then maybe someday we can come back to producing new stuff once again. Maybe. That maybe the idea is it's not to go on all nothing but reprints from now until doomsday, but just stick with nothing but reprints for the next 2 or 3 years, and let's just see where we are then. And who knows, maybe then we can start creating new comics with new art, new stories, new everything at that time. And I just outlined, the 3 different ways that making reprints is more profitable than making new stuff. Bet your ass there are people at DC right now who want to keep their jobs, who, let's face it, that sword from AT&T, it is dangling. And this just might be a way for them to save the company. And like I say, I'm not really too interested in getting back and forth into the ethics of sailing the high seas. I mean, guys, it's 2021. If you haven't made up your mind about that yet, I don't really think there's anything I can say to change, or I don't think there's anything I should say to influence you. I mean, you maybe just need to turn off the internet and never turn it back on again. But either way, the bigger issue of DC and Marvel possibly not producing new material anymore, whether that's going to reprints or whether that's going out of business or just whatever, you know, just from, if you think about things just from Marvel's perspective, right? The Chris Claremont run on X-Men, you can sustain, I mean, it's not going to be a big company, but you can sustain a company off of that. Let me think, Frank Miller on Daredevil, probably, well, I don't know about probably, but maybe Ann Nesenti on Daredevil. David Michelinie and Todd McFarlane on Amazing Spider-Man, Peter David on The Incredible Hulk, John Byrne for sure on The Fantastic Four, and probably She-Hulk too. I could see that. You know, there are a lot, and this is my point, there are a lot of things that Marvel has in their vault that were they to do those facsimile reprints, they could actually make a lot of money off of them. And there's a built-in audience for it. There are people out there who would love to have higher quality floppies of floppy reprints of those comics. Those could kind of become sort of collectibles unto themselves in a weird kind of way. And so this is where we are. Now, guys, ask yourself, how real was this threat back in 2011? Or actually, you know what? Let's make it even more interesting. How real was that threat back in 2017? Probably not very real. I mean, comic sales were certainly down by 2017. There's just no doubts there. The SJWs had moved in and they were taking over, and the comics that were coming out were really starting to become shit. But it's like, even back in 2017, like nobody was talking about this. There wasn't even a rumor about something like this. Not back in 2017. But it's like now, guys, the rumors have been making the rounds at this point for over a year or like a year and a half or something like that. And it's just strange that people are still not taking this seriously, and at least publicly. Publicly, DC talent and Marvel talent, they're acting like, oh no, everything's going fine. The industry's back on an upswing. More people than ever are buying comics. And it's like, dude, look, I don't know who you think you're kidding, but lumping in manga sales with your lackluster comic sales, you're not fooling anybody, guy. And nevertheless, this just seems to be the party line. Now, your boy Zach, Richard Meyer, he basically put out a video a couple of days ago. I haven't actually watched it yet, but it looks like the basic premise of what he's going to say in that video that I haven't seen yet is that in the SJW comic book industry world, success is not defined by high sales, because it can't be. I mean, how could it possibly be defined by high sales? Nobody has high sales. And so success in their book is not getting canceled yet. Or success in their book is their adherence to SJW doctrine. Or success in their world is determined by how much they hate Ethan Van Sciver and all of that, because no one can point to sales figures as, hey, this is proof that I'm doing something right. No one can do that anymore. And so for them, they have to be successful in some way or another. So what metric do they use to get there? And and I'm assuming that's the basic point that your boy Zach was making in his little video. And honestly, like I say, I don't really know. I haven't seen it, but based on the description, I'm assuming that's his point. So I guess I'll see in a little while if I'm right or not. But what I'm trying to say is that this is where we are. You know, the people have been predicting the demise of the industry for decades now. And SJWs are very fond of pointing out the fact that people have been predicting the demise of the industry for decades now. But this is the first time that actual rumors with teeth, I might add, have been making the rounds saying that, no, we're actually facing a really big challenge right now. Whereas maybe people feared it back in the 80s. No one was really talking about it. It was a fear. Whereas now, it's not just a fear, it is something that people are talking about, if Erik Larson is to be believed. And for as full of shit as I consider Erik Larson to be, I don't really think he's got any reason to lie, at least about this. So that's where we are in 2021. So the year ain't over yet. So I guess we'll see if the comic book industry still exists. That is to say, DC and Marvel still exist on January the 1st, 2022. But right now, it looks like some very uncomfortable conversations are happening in DC and Marvel both. So I guess we'll see. So anyway, that's that. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, make sure you're still subscribed, comment, like, and share this video because it really helps me out. Also, you can find me on Twitter at ColeLovesComics.